There we go. Cool. All right, and we're live. Welcome everybody to this week's episode of Ask Shy, or as I jokingly call it, the Ask Shy, because the domain is AskSh.ai. And this is the weekly Web3 blockchain show, specifically where I talk about what I'm building in the space, things that I'm talking about, things that I'm listening to, people that I'm hearing, and just general things that are going on. The main goal of this show is amongst the other shows is part of a bigger picture of the really the story overall narrative that I'm trying to build um, for myself, something called the you don't know me till you clone me project. So the idea in a bit of a half joking way is that, if we're going to clone humanity in the future, why don't we write our own story and at least be cloned based off of what we want to be, as opposed to cloning me based on content out there and making assumptions. So, anyways, I'm looking to build my body of work and my content overall, so that my eventual clone will be of better quality. um, so that's one of the goals of this show. The goal is also really telling the why stories of a lot of the builders I talk to, and that's one of the fortunate things I have is I get to spend every day talking to a lot of the builders in this space and show this is one of those ways to share those stories and things that I hear. And I do invite everybody to join the show and interact as much as you can. And this is really an externalization of something that I've done really for the last 3 years while I was at Amazon. Um, and it's something I'm very passionate about, right? When you host a show, when you talk about things that you love and you're passionate about, people see that and then they get inspired as well. So that's ultimately my goal too. Is just to continue inspiring people. And if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the things that I'm talking about, please do let me know. If there's things of interest and things that you want to hear about, um, let me know as well, right? Either through the comments in the chat, or you can message me on, I guess, any one of the things here, Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube. Um, yeah, so that's the foundation of the show. That's overall the goal. This is specifically about Web3 and blockchain. I'm also hosting a Monday show that is more about general life, parenthood, leadership, mental health, and general things that I run into and musings that I find amusing. And that's where I'm at right now, those two main shows. And you're going to see a lot more coming in the very near future. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of really awesome people in my circle. Damien, a big shout out to you. One of my big friends there that's been a big supporter. And I'm really looking forward to just creating more content. So stay tuned. You will see a lot more content coming very soon in the next month or so. So what are we going to talk about today? Um, I will get into some of the announcements, some of the things that I'm working on. Um, we're about 5 minutes into the show, and so let me actually start off with a question that somebody asked me this morning around, is crypto dead in the U.S.? Now, when it comes to crypto regulations, this is not something that I talk about very often, mainly because I choose to focus on the tech, honestly. I feel like there's only so much time during the day. And it's important to be aware of the regulations, right? It's important to know what Gary Gensler and all the other politicians are saying and what they're talking about. But is it important to know every single word and like hang on every single word? No. Sorry, no. Um, I've been very deep in the political world, not just from following it myself, for many, many years. And I was also in politics. I was on local council. I was on local board of my township for the zoning board, for the what's the other board I was on? Local communities. I don't remember right now, but um, it's fun being in local politics. But one of the things that you realize is that the system is just a challenge to work with. There's many reasons, and I don't want to spend the show really talking about the challenges in the American uh, bureaucratic system overall. I will happily do that over side at some point. But the if the question I get often, right, is crypto dead? Is blockchain dead? Is cryptocurrency is dead? Is, whatever, multi-chain dead, right? It's all these other questions, right? My answer is always no, right? And through like every one of the collapses that we've had, whether it's been FTX, whether it's been Luna before that, whether it's been CPI numbers that crash, whatever, right? The builders in this space, the people who are actually building the technology, the people focused on technology, are still building. That's the fun part, is the conversations that I've been privy to over the last 3 years or so, 3.5 years. You'd hear these events and these things happening, and people would take note of them. It's not like we would ignore them, but it wouldn't derail most of the projects, right? You may have to refocus things. You have to reshuffle funds. If you're part of the FTX collapse of some sort, right? Maybe you lost your funding and things were unfortunate then, but things still survived, right? So the bigger question, right, is crypto dead? Is blockchain dead? Is public blockchain networks dead? All this stuff. Again, no, because it's a bigger discussion, right? Now let's hone in on that question a little more specifically, right? Is cryptocurrency dead in the US, right? Okay, so now we're talking about digital currencies, right, or cryptocurrencies, and we're talking about one use case of the underlying blockchain technology, right, or underlying Web3 technology. Um, so just because you kill the currency side of it doesn't mean that the underlying technology is dead. Does it stifle innovation? Does it cause confusion? Certainly. I mean, there's no doubt there, right? And that's why I said it's important to understand what Gary Gensler's talking about, and really the lack of clarity and the back and forthness and just understanding that, right, is important to be aware of. But what you begin to realize is that it's more of stifling than anything, right? It's not going to kill anything, but it'll stifle anything. And so, if want to hypothesize a little bit, right? Again, nothing that I talk about here is financial advice of any kind. Forget the usual disclaimer, right? This is all for education and mostly entertainment, not financial advice of any kind. But I'll share my opinion and my perspective is, right. The last show I talked about how the future is a multi-chain future, and so if we look at from this question of is cryptocurrency dead, well, that's really asking, right? Is an alternative, is the idea or the concept of an alternative currency dead, right? And I think that kind of like that question to ask, right? If you take that outside of the digital asset picture, right, and you say, like, go to any politician and say, hey, I don't want to use the dollar anymore. I just want to trade in gold, or I don't want to use the dollar anymore. I want to just trade in dirt and soil, or I want to trade in water bottles. I don't know. I have a million of these water bottles and I want to trade in these. You can't do that, right? You can't go into like the sporting goods store and be like, hey, I have 1,000 of these bottles. Can I sell you 1,000 of these bottles for a bike? Like, that doesn't work anymore, right? I mean, they used to work thousands of years ago in our modern society, right? In other cultures and other societies today, that still does work. You do have barter systems like that, right? But on a larger scale in modern societies, it's not how it works anymore. So this concept of an alternate currency, for lack of better words, has been dead in a modern society for a long time. In a modern economy, has been dead for a long time. It's not something new. So why would any politician or anybody else be willing, somebody that really believes in the institution, right, that holds up this concept that the institution is strong and will be there forever, right, and can solidify itself and can hold itself up. Well, so the currency is, a representation of that strength, right? So why would anybody, not anybody, right, but I could see why most politicians, right, that are in that place, right, they're in political power because they believe in some institution. Maybe they believe it needs change, right, but they believe in this concept of institution. They were never okay with other currencies. Why would they be okay now with an alternate currency? Like, why? All of a sudden they're going to be okay with Bitcoin or Ethereum being another currency, or some other token being another currency? No, it just, for the same reason, they're not going to be okay with another version of the digital dollar, right? Just something else that competes with them. Now, if the digital dollar, whatever form that is, solidifies the US dollar and the US economy and the underlying currency, then yeah, they might be okay with that, right? But they would want to see that it's not threatening that underlying institution. And so anything that does threaten that, right? The concept of minting, right? Oh, now we're going to mint digital dollars and we are going to distribute digital dollars, right? Well, that's threatening the institution, right? So immediately, not that all politicians are going to be against that, but part of their job is to question that and say, is this the right thing for my constituents? Is this what my constituents want? And as I mentioned, I was in politics before, and if you're doing the right thing for your constituents, it's not about is the right thing for you. And so if you are in a rural neighborhood, you're in an area where those people can't or don't care for Bitcoin, don't care for alternate currencies, don't want these things. They're more concerned about healthcare in the area. They're more concerned about access to food. Why would you spend your time trying to argue for or dive into to understand an alternate currency? As a politician, you're just going to take the stance of like, well, my constituents don't want this, so the answer is no, and I'm going to focus on these other things that my constituents want, which again is part of what you're supposed to do as a politician. You're not there to serve your self-interest. You're there as a selfless servant to serve other people. That's why I didn't run again in 2017 when my daughter was born. It was just a lot. It takes a lot out of you to every day think of how you can do something for other people and not yourself. That's what you're supposed to do as a politician. And in fairness, you get paid crap for it. So, um, you're not doing it for the money. You're not doing it for the fame, and you're not doing it for your own ideology. You're doing it for the ideology and the belief of your constituents. And again, that's one of the reasons why I have a hard time believing that we're going to see like an alternate currency being okay in the US, right? So for that reason, I will just flat out say, that an alternate currency in the US is dead. That to me is dead. I just maybe in like 10 years or something, things will come around, maybe 15 years, right? But immediately in the near future, no. Right. So the question is, okay, if the concept of alternate digital currencies are dead, if competitive digital dollars to the US dollar is dead, what other parts of the tech is there, right? Well, the tech itself is still there, right? So the underlying blockchain technology, right? I believe that Web3 is not just blockchain, right? It's generative AI, it's machine learning. All these other pieces are still there. They can still run without the underlying currency piece to it. You are missing a huge enabler, right? In a big part of this whole new economy, but you don't have to have it. Like it's not a requirement. We can still leverage the technology. We can still do what we want to do without having to have the underlying currencies, right? Now, again, a public blockchain network becomes much harder, right? I mean, how do you incentivize people to run a blockchain network if you can't pay them, right? You have to find other forms of incentives, and okay, well, are those other forms of incentives currencies? I they can be seen as that. I don't know when you play a video game, right? And um, you're rewarded points for those, and you're rewarded experience points and all these things. But that's not always true. I mean, I remember as a kid all the time and as a young adult of like your player and your character being sold outside the game. I would sell mine to other people and give them my username and password, and of course I would change it, right? And I would give that account away, and I would make some money off it as a kid. Right? People do that. So okay, so again, at the high level, right? The currency part of it is to me dead. Now that's just the US, right? Yes, you have the US as a big power, you have China, you have Russia, you have all these big countries that are going to fight against this alternate currency because it threatens their stability. Again, that makes sense from their perspective. It doesn't make sense for me. I mean, I don't want to go be a citizen in North Korea, nor do I want to be a citizen in some of these other countries that have those draconian rules. Not draconian rules. I want to go be a citizen in the countries that understand that they're not the only ones there, right? That maybe they have their own currency, but their currency is just one option for the people. It may be a more stable one, it might be a more reliable one, it may have insurance, it may have all these other things, and maybe I have to pay a fee for that. or I have to give up certain permissions, I have to give up certain rights. That's okay. That's fine. But those are the countries where crypto is not dead, right? Blockchain is not dead. Web3 is not dead. AI stuff is not dead. All these things are not dead because those countries understand that there's the technology and then there's the currency and there's all these other things, right? And they have to form regulations. And even in the countries that are stricter and are taking this stronger case, that's better than the lack of clarity that we have here in the US. And I would prefer that, right? Because at least then as a builder, I know what to build against, and it gives me more direction. It gives me more understanding of what I can and can't do. And honestly, from the builder's perspective, that's the most frustrating thing. You're trying to build something, your heads down, focused on the tech, you're building your cool stuff, you're doing what you're trying to do. You don't have time to dig into all the regulatory stuff, right? You can have a lawyer that helps you, but you lose so much time in that translation between the tech and the legal side. Um, and that again, that's what stifles the innovation. And so I think it's again important for governments to understand, like anything else, that there is the underlying technology, right? And you need to support that innovation side somehow. And on the parts that conflict with your regulations, conflict with your policies and all that stuff, you need to have a clear stance. And the clear stance of we'll come out with some laws and rules in like 3 years, or we'll come up with a guidance and then a policy in 3 years, and then a law a couple of years after that, like it works here. That doesn't work for people, right? That's just more confusion. And again, this isn't only on the cryptocurrency side. I went through this on the drone side. I mean, I have drones. I can't see in this angle, but there's, I mean, well, even on the 3D printer side, when the 3D printers started evolving from the IP protection, there was a big question of what can we do and what cannot we do, right? We're doing all these things in the rep world and open source world, and we hope that we're not going to get a cease and desist at any point in that world because we're infringing on some copyright, and but there's also no clarity, and so sort of as we move in that industry, right? And same thing with the drones. The FAA came down, right? There was all these uncertainty on where you can fly and where you can't fly. And so the manufacturers that were out there building parts and selling parts to customers all of a sudden have to shift part of their attention to, well, am I going to be able to sell this particular propeller instead of this one? It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. And so, I'm aware of these things. Do I spend every waking moment of the day worried about, what is going to collapse the crypto market next? No, because the reality of it is the market itself is immature, not just from a financial side, but also from a technology side. So it's still going to be a while, right, before 5 years, right, before we get rid of this FUD and all this crap that scares people away, and people actually understand the technology is really there and there's value there. And so that leads me to the next part there, and I think that's I'll put a kibosh, if you will, on that there. If anybody has any comments, any questions on my stance on regulatory policies, and my thoughts on currencies and where we're standing, and if we're dead in the industry or not. Again, the short of answer is no. Just keep building. The people that are building that I'm talking to every day are still building. They're concerned, yes, but they're still building. So with that, we'll move on. Part of the reasons why it's not dead is because of those builders. And so that's really the area that I'm really keen on. And so I've been spending a lot of time over the last 6 weeks now, really trying to think about what is the direction I want to go in, right? What path do I want to go along, and what role do I want to play in this ecosystem, and how do I do that? And what's so awesome, and I feel so fortunate, is I haven't been at that alone. As I've been kind of figuring out what I'm trying to do and what I'm thinking of, there's such awesome people in my circle that I wish I could thank every one of you and call you out individually, but I also don't think that's fair either. Um, that will get on a call with me for 15 minutes, half an hour, or very often go over a couple minutes. And they're founders, they're executives of their companies, they're engineers and builders, they're community managers, friends that are still in different companies and are building out there. And it's so exciting to hear what they're building, what they see as the future, right? And kind of like echoing the first part of the message I shared, right? Like that things are not dead. Um, and so that's the exciting part of my day that I really enjoy. And so I've been spending a lot of the time over the last, again, 6 weeks or so, trying to think how I continue that. My goal, I think, is really to continue being in the ecosystem and really serving as an advisor, as a consultant, if you will. I don't like the idea of selling myself, so that is a bit weird to me. Um, so you'll probably hear me a lot saying things like, "I want to give this away for free. I want to give that away for free," because there's two parts of it. One, I just feel really dirty and wrong selling myself. I'm sorry if you're a consultant and you charge an hourly rate, that's fine. I get why you do it. I have nothing against that. Well, for you, I just feel weird about doing it. Now I do have to feed my family, so at some point that is an option. And that's why I said I get why you have to charge per hour, right? We can't all work for free, but if I can find a way to, I want to. So um, I want to continue being that advisor, right? And so what I spent a lot of time doing was, how do I continue telling that story? This show, the Monday show, is one of it. Some of the upcoming content that I'm working on is going to continue working on that. But what I've been spending a lot of time doing is really focusing on the layers of Web3, right? And so again, the layers of Web3 in my perspectives are the data layers, the blockchain layer, right? So in the data layer, we have blockchain. Now, there could be other data sources in that layer as well, right? We don't have to sort of single anybody out. In the interpretation layer is mainly about machine learning and making sense of that underlying data. And then you have the presentation layer that makes visual sense of all that data, right? In a way that makes sense to us, hopefully in real time, dynamic, through text, through images, through video now, right? We can create all this new content on top of the underlying data that's already there, or new data. And so I'm really passionate about exploring that concept more and really building more into that space, and working with people to build the primitives that really further define what Web3 is, right? And so again, those are my three kind of areas of passion, right? The data layer, the interpretation, and the presentation layer. And I I'm really keen on this idea of telling the story of why people build things. And so we can go and see what people build, right? If we look at Solana, Avalabs, or Avalanche, Phantom, Near, right? We want to know blockchain layer one or layer two. Um, Usually with the protocol, right? We can go see the code a lot of times. We'll go on GitHub, we'll go on their documentation, and we can see exactly what they built. It's like right there. And if you don't understand the code, generally there's a lot of DevRel or developer relations, right? They'll put a lot of content either internally or from a third party or community members that goes through and talks about what their product is, right? And how to build on it, and what you're doing, and like how to use libraries, and how to create new smart contracts and the use cases, right? So all that what and that how is there. But what I always find is lost is the why. And when we talk about being early in Web3 and this whole new internet revolution, that's really what is important, right? If we're so early and the tech is sometimes so hard for people to understand, the why story is not, right? The why people do things, we're humans, we've done things for years. So understanding why people do things, people's motivations, their first principles, if you will, um, their North Star, their guiding wind, whatever you want to call it. It's something that we've done for years, right? And we've done that as storytellers. That's part of what you do as a storyteller is you look to get that story out of people, right? You want to hear why, because it's that story that inspires other people. And that's what I really believe, right? When you tell the story, when you speak from the heart, you inspire other people. You don't try to influence them by just telling them what to do. So I'm working on really defining, right, the sort of the why story of blockchain, right, of like why this technology is important, why should we care. I've honestly, I've been on that quest for 20, 11, 12 years now. No, wait, no, 13 years. Since 2010. So like since 2010, right? Reading the Bitcoin white paper, understanding what blockchain is, going to every single event and conference and webinar I could be part of, that I remember like NetApp conferences and EMC conferences and like VMworld, like there's some back of the room session with like 10 people talking about blockchain. And like and every conference was like that, 10, 15 people, 20 people, 30 people, 45 people, 50 people, right? And it slowly got to be more and more people. And as I went through that journey, right, I was always asking myself, why is this technology so important, right? Why blockchain? Why is this such a big deal? The people that understand cryptography, right? The people that really understand the financial systems, that understand, either are scared of it because they don't understand it, right? The people that are smarter than me are excited about it because they understand about it, right? And so that raised the flag to me, right? There's something more that's there. So I feel like throughout my career, I've been in so many parts of tech that really helped me try to explore that, like why blockchain, why that the value of blockchain is there, right? And that's why I've been so passionate about it. Um, and so that's really the goal, right? Is telling that, the not the value of blockchain, because there's plenty of that stuff, right? It's why should you care? Why should you, as a human, as a grandma, as society, why should you care? Why would it make your life value, right? It's not about what value is it adding to your life. It's just simply, why should you care? Why is it important to you, right? And I think when you really explore it from that reason, and you start talking to other people, you really get a story out of it. And usually because, like layer one, right? You'll talk to somebody about why they built that. And they'll tell you because they saw that the solutions that were out there were not solving some of the problems in the world that they felt needed to be solved. Either it's like education, and education equality, maybe it's equal access to health and medicine, maybe it's equal access to employment. There's always a story there that will hit home of why they built something. And again, when you hear those stories, that's what gets you excited. It's what's gotten me excited in this space. It's what's gotten other people that I've worked with excited in this space. When I share those stories, they're excited. So I want to continue sharing those stories bigger, and then the part after that goes into the same thing for um so we talk about why the technology is important, why the builders building what they're building, um and then finally just talking into the sorry, this is my train of thought. And then continuing that wine journey. So that's the part I'm really excited to continue focusing on. Um, Everything that I really do, I'd say everything, but a lot of the things I do, especially in the Web3 and blockchain space, are going to really revolve around that why story and telling those things, right? So that's the part I'm always looking at when I'm looking at opportunities, when I look at projects and protocols, people that come to me and ask me for advice or my thoughts on things. And when I've looked at role opportunities, role, that why part is always really important to me, right? Like why they're telling their story, why they're doing what they're doing, what story does that tell? Um, and that why is really what it gets you excited. So you're going to hear a lot more of that. That's going to be coming hopefully in the next couple of weeks and months. I'm excited to share more and more of the plans of things of that I'm getting involved with that really continue telling that why story. One of those things that I'll particularly share in the last couple moments here, before I move on to a couple of things. Um, is around the education program that I'm looking to launch. There will be a crowdcast page going live shortly. But I think when you tell the why story, an important thing to tell is, why is this stuff important to people in education, right? People are teaching the kids and people are working with our children. Why is it important to understand Web3, right? Blockchain, machine learning, and generative AI. Why do you need to know how to use these tools? Why should your students know how to use them? Why should you use them in the classroom? Right? Again, it's not the how you should use them. There's plenty of resources for that. It's really the why is it important? Why should you do it? Um, and so for that specifically, again, I that will be coming shortly. There will be a Crowdcast event page for an educator event that will be happening in mid-August. I will putting on a form out there to solicit some help from the community, from both the educator side as well as the Web3 side. I've gotten some interest from both sides of people that want to present or sorry, be part of the panels. They're all going to be panel sessions, and so that will go up hopefully the next week or so. And again, hoping to go live with that about mid-August. So if you're passionate about education and Web3, and you're really passionate about driving that intersection of Web3 and education, please do reach out. I would really love to have some help and collaboration from the community, and would really love to uh, get some help echoing the event and getting some awareness for really the teachers and teachers going into this next cycle of semester, next year of education, with a much more open mind, understanding why right, why it's important for them to understand as part of the classroom. So that's my goal for August. Look for that towards the middle of the month or so. Sorry, not middle of the month. Another week or so, and I'll get that posted and shared out with everybody else. Again, if you have any questions, please do jump in and ask. For anybody that's joining late or is just hanging on late, thank you for enjoying the session. This is a general kind of office hours, general update as to things I'm working on, projects that I collaborate with, and community members I talk to, and just general space to share all the exciting stories I get to be involved in. Hopefully over the couple months, this will become more formalized. It will probably always have a sense of this kind of open office hours, but we'll get more sessions hosted. If you go in Crowdcast today, and you can join those events and be part of the green room in the backstage. If you want to come on camera, you can. If you want to have conversations, you can. All right. So again, don't forget to subscribe wherever the subscribe button is down there, um, and reach out on LinkedIn and Twitter. All right. So one of the last things I want to move on to. One of the things I think that's really important in the Web3 blockchain ecosystem, right, as we continue to build, is this concept of building together. It's something that I've if you watch my hashtags, I don't do much of like SEO optimization and hashtags and stuff like that, just because I don't know, I try to be more organic and natural about my stuff. And so I'll usually put in there build together, right? And I really believe in that, right? I really believe in this idea that if we look at competition, it's just a silly kind of waste of time, right? Yes, it's important to understand what your competitive landscape is. It's important to understand who's selling what products and how they're selling it, but not so you can compete with them, not so you can build a better product for them, right? So that you can understand your consumers better, right? So that you have a better understanding of what your customers are looking for, right? And so for that, my focus is always on cooperation, right? If you cooperate with your partners, if you cooperate with what we would normally be called your competition, you're not really fighting with them. You're more just understanding where it is that your customers are going after, and you're maybe saying, you know what, hey, those customers are better served by that partner. Why that competitor? It's silly to me, because they should look at it from the same way too, right? They can corner a certain part of the market that they do really well, but they're not going to corner every single part of the market. And so why not partner? Why not collaborate and say, hey, I can eat this part of the cake, and so you can eat it too. And by the way, there's plenty of cake left for everybody else, because that's the reality of it. especially in the Web3 and blockchain space and stuff that we're building, there is so much cake to go around. Um, that I just think it's silly to spend time on competition. Same thing if we talk about a lot of other industries as well, right? I think if you're heads down focused on that competition, you're just like looking for like your niche to like squeeze out an inch, and then as soon as you squeeze out that inch, somebody else is going to squeeze you out faster. Because likely there's always going to be somebody that has more resources than you, right? There's always going to be the bigger fish. So again, it's important to be aware of competition, just should not be the first thing on your mind, right? It shouldn't be what you lead with, because then again, competition leads to fear. If you look at cooperation, you look at opportunities, and you come into every conversation with, where's an opportunity, right? I'm aware that there's overlap. There's going to be overlap. Where is an opportunity to work together? Where is an opportunity to form those synergies? And so that's a really big part of my philosophy, right? Is really just focusing on that building together, focusing on finding those synergies. And if we work together to service more customers, then together we will change the world, as opposed to doing it separately, where we all end up fighting against each other and wasting resources and time competing with each other. Again, it's a moot point and a waste of time. So we collaborate, we build things together, we accelerate things together, and we find opportunities to work together. Even if you're going to compete, it doesn't matter. Just find a way to work together. And so when I think about that cooperation, right, and building the partner programs that I've built in the past, and what does it mean to be a partner? What does it mean to build a relationship? That's really what it is, right? When you're thinking about partnering, and it doesn't matter if you're partnering with them because you're going to use their product, um, or you're partnering with them because you want access to the resources they have, right? Again, for me, an example, I'm very passionate about education, right? I want to partner with people in the education space because I would like to have access to the teachers that work there. There's no secret about that, right? So when you're transparent and you're open like that in that sense, right? And you're very clear about what you expect out of the relationship. It's not a transactional exchange. It's not I scratch your back and you scratch mine. It's not, hey, I'll do this for you and then I expect this back from you. That's tit for tat, and that's a waste of time, and it's stupid. It's what can I do to help you, right? Where are those opportunities that we can work together? And we're going to be in this for the long term. And so eventually we'll help each other out. It'll all work itself out. Right? That's just the way I approach things. And so when I look at the partner programs and I look about, what does it mean to build what I think I built a successful partner program in an emerging technology space like Web3 and blockchain, is really about validity and visibility. Right? When you talk to people in this space, right, and this is again the part that I love. What are they looking for? Right? They're looking for validity. They have this idea that they're passionate about, like they're creating this awesome thing that they think is going to solve some problem in the world, and it's going to do this cool thing like solve world hunger or solve education problems, and they're so passionate about it, and they really want validity, right? They want that validity that what they're working on is the right thing to work on, that customers and people want to use this tech, right? Almost like, think about it, we want to find where our technology breaks. We want to know where our ideas break, because the faster we know that something doesn't work, the faster we can reiterate it on, create something that's even better. And then you just start the same thing over again, right? Break it, build it better, break it again, you build it better. And you just keep doing that over again. And so that's how society in the world gets better. So that's the validity that a lot of the partners are looking for. Now, the other part of it is visibility, right? Now, visibility is for that sake of the validity, right? Visibility is not for the sake of like sales and just like, hey, look at us and like we're here and we can scream and shout. No, it's visibility about, hey, look at us. These are the things that we're doing that we need help validating. That's the important connection to draw in, right? And so when you're thinking about building a partner program and you're thinking about what does that mean, it really, to be frank, doesn't matter what the space is, whether it's storage and compute networks, whether it's So I'm looking at a B here. Whether it's storage and compute, whether it's any kind of other architectures or any kind of applications. Um, Sorry, there's a bee fight and a spider going on, a bee and a fighter spy going on in front of me. It's very distracting. Um, where's that going? So when you're building these big programs, think of that visibility as really an ultimate goal to getting that validity. Again, it doesn't matter if like we're looking at storage and we're talking about, flash storage and, tiered storage and, cloud storage, whatever. It's still you want to validate the technology so you can build something better, and the visibility is so that you can do more of that validation. So that to me is again like part of my key thesis, right? Like why I really believe in this concept of building together, right? The forging on, when you struggle together and you build something together, you're really forging a strong partnership. You're forging that like key relationship and that key bond. And when you collaborate and you work together and you're strategic from the very beginning, you forge a really, really strong bond, right? And so that's a very like very important thing to do. It's just a very passionate part of mine, right? Is that you start the foundation strong, you forge it from the very beginning, right? Just like a metal forge, a broadsword, or an axe that a blacksmith would forge, right? That went into battle and survived all these battle cases, right? You want to forge something strong from the very beginning. And that's really what I'm passionate about, right? I'm really passionate about it, and I'm really excited to bring more to this world of the possibilities and the things that we can do, right? The stories, the technology, all those opportunities that exist in this space, and frankly, how we can all eat from that cake together and build together. And so, with that, I will say forge on and build together. Thank you everybody for joining. I appreciate all the questions that came in on the side chats and over messages. Please join in the chat, continue the conversation, subscribe to the channel, reach out on LinkedIn. Let me know what you're building. I love hearing your stories. So thank you everybody. I love you all. Thank you for uh, just thank you for everything. Take care. Happy weekend. Bye everybody.